Hello, once again, and welcome to the Management Channel. I've taken this particular topic and broken it up into two parts because it is extremely long. This is international HR management. And our objectives here are we want to learn about the economic, political, and cultural factors in different countries, define how international and domestic HR situations differ. We want to look at the staffing processes for individuals from this side that we have working internationally, identify any unique training needs for personnel working internationally, and learn how labor relations differ around the world. The global environment has some similarities: free trade, service based business, integrated technology platforms. Some of the differences, though, are political and cultural differences. Property rights are poorly protected. In some places, there is civil unrest, and in some places, intellectual property rights have been little protected. Globalization is simply the trend toward opening up foreign markets to international trade and investment. Approximately 70 to 85% of the U.S. economy today is affected by international competition. About 10% of what Americans produce every year, dollar wise, is sold abroad, so we have a trade imbalance. To help with that, we have lower trade and tariff barriers, NAFTA, European Union, APEC trade agreements, WTO, and GATT. Cultural environment is the communications, religions, values, and ideologies, and education, along with the social structure of a particular country. A host country is a country in which an international corporation operates. For instance, Coca-Cola is international, but it operates out of the United States. So you can see the global environment of international business is pretty complicated. And I'm going to take a minute here and let you read through this. Again, please feel free to pause so that you can study it further. So, an international corporation is one that is a domestic firm that uses its existing capabilities to move out into overseas markets. A multinational corporation is a firm with independent business units operating in multiple countries. A global corporation is a firm that has integrated worldwide operations through a centralized home office. And a transnational corporation is one that attempts to balance local responsiveness and global scale via a network of specialized operating units. So the types of organizations, there's global, international, multinational, transnational. Take a moment and look through these definitions. For staffing internationally, there's issues with that, and it's called relocation, orientation to the new area that they're going to be living in, translation services. And the difference between an expatriate, a home country national, and a host country national is expatriates are employees from the home country who are on international assignment. Host country nationals are employees who are natives in the host country. Third country nationals are employees who are natives of a country other than the home country or the host country. Mostly needing a work permit or visa, whether we're going there or they're coming here. Need a government document granting a foreign individual the right to seek employment. A guest worker is a foreign worker that is invited to perform needed labor. A transnational team are composed of members of multiple nationalities working on projects that span multiple countries. Selecting employees in a foreign country environment can be difficult. You need to get to know the local market and the customs in hiring. You get to know the culture and the working habits of the local people and the country. And you get to know holidays and special cultural activities. One thing I found in Mexico, over by the Yucatan, um, Between 12 and 3, the employees take a break. It's called siesta because it is so hot between 12 and 3, they can't work in the factory. So they go home for a while and then they return. Some facts for you know. What is the largest ethnic population in the U.S. today? Do you know? Right now, it seems to be Hispanic. If we could shrink the world of 100 people to exactly one population, with all the oh boy, all the ratios remaining the same, it would look like this. There'd be 57 Asians, 21 Europeans, 8 Africans, 14 Latin Americans. There'd be 51 of those would be females, 49 would be males, 70 would be non-white, 30 would be white. 50% of the entire world wealth would belong to only 6 people. 80 would live in substandard housing. 70 might be unable to read. 50 would suffer malnutrition. 1 would be near death. Only 1 would have a college education. And only 1 would own a computer. Now, I grant you these numbers were about 10 years ago. Things have changed a lot. But let's take a look at corruption. The number 1 corrupt country is Denmark, Finland, and New Zealand. Number 4 is Sweden. Oddly enough, number 133 is Russia. Number 80 is China. And the USA ranks number 19 for corruption. Shocking, huh? Choosing staff and management in a foreign country is difficult because of the cultures and differences. Advertising is different. For example, French, you avoid reasoning or logic. Advertising predominantly is emotional, dramatic, or symbolic. Spots viewed as cultural events, art for sake of money, and reviewed as if they were literature or films. The British value laughter above all else. Typical broad, self-deprecating British commercial amuses by mocking both the advertiser and the consumer. Conversely, Germans want factual and rational advertising. A typical German spot features a standard family of 2 parents, 2 children, and a grandmother. Not possible, really, to do business the same way in every global location. How we do things here is not how you're going to be able to do them in another country. Procedures and strategies that work well here at home can't be adopted overseas without some modification. Differences among cultures, far more differences than there are similarities. Wages differ, compensation differs, pay equity differs, maternity leave differs, and even vacation. Most Europeans take a month of vacation. Here in the United States, the average is 2 weeks. And you need to know the importance of criteria used in evaluation of employees. Cultures are quite different from country to country. Attitudes are quite different towards things like punctuality, lunch breaks, the environment, intellectual property, theft, bribery, child labor. In China, it's okay to have young kids working in factories. We don't like that here in this country. And we're going to go over some of the differences in each country in part 2. Companies need to consider the national literacy rate, their rate of innovation, what's their rate of technology change, what's the number of skilled workers there, is the politics stable, what are the product liability laws, what kind of restrictions are there on exporting goods, and the variations in language. And then you need to look at work ethic, tax rates, inflation, the availability of raw materials, interest rates, what's the population, what are the number of miles of highway, and is it easy to get from one main port to the other? And what is the phone and internet system like? When selecting global managers, you need to have a knowledgeable manager equipped to run an international business. The skills are the ability to seize strategic opportunities, the ability to manage highly decentralized organizations. You need to be very much aware of global issues, very sensitive to the issues of diversity, competence in interpersonal relations, and have some community. Skills needed for expatriate managers. I'm going to let you study this for a moment, and again, you may pause if you need to. The causes of expatriate assignment failure are the adjustment for the family, the adjustment in their lifestyle issues, work adjustment, poor performance, other opportunities arise. There's a multitude of factors of why it fails. The important thing is train your people correctly and prepare them for this transition. Essential training program content to prepare employees for working internationally includes language, cultural training, assessing and tracking their career development, how will they manage their personal and family life, and then returning to the United States for repatriation. The big thing is to prepare for cultural shock. Perpetual stress experienced by people who settle overseas usually are in a culture shock. Foods differ, customs differ. So, when preparing for an international assignment, you should look at the following things like social and business etiquette, history and folklore, the language. I'll let you take a moment to read through these. In preparing for an international assignment, there are all kinds of things you need to be aware of. Scratching the head, eye contact, indicating no, handshaking and touching. In some places, you don't touch with the hand. So take a moment and read through these. Pause this so that you can read it all. It's some very important information here about international working internationally. I think one of the most interesting sections is how to call a waiter. Very interesting. All right, so there's a lot to take in, and I recommend you definitely look at part two. We're going to get into some of the intricacies of each culture. Thank you, and hope to see you in part two.